Hey toy fans, I'm D21 Beast and welcome back to my figure review series here on my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at Toy Biz's Face-Off Mandarin from 2006. This Mandarin, when it came out, was originally packed in a 2-pack with Iron Man featuring his modular armor, which was a comic armor that people would recognize from the 90s. I personally recognized it from the animated series that was on in the 90s. And this particular Mandarin outfit didn't match the animated series, and I do believe it's just kind of a look that Mandarin would come and go between throughout the 80s and the 90s. I know in the X-Men comics of the 80s, Mandarin tended to be wearing a business suit more often than he wore this sort of outfit. So really, Mandarin I think has a look that hasn't stayed permanent, but this is certainly an iconic look for the character throughout the decades. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the accessories here that Mandarin came with. Now that 2-pack originally came with a display stand that would hold Iron Man and the Mandarin. I no longer have that display stand, and sadly I don't have the Iron Man either. But Mandarin came with this flight stand that would actually plug into his back right here, that would then plug into the display stand so you could stand him up here. The display base I'm using with Mandarin right now didn't actually come with the figure, but it's the best way I've got to stand this guy, and we'll touch on that in the articulation. The other thing I have here are these energy blasts. Now Mandarin of course has the 10 rings that control many different elements, and Mandarin came with these sculpted blasts that will plug onto his hands that just kind of showcase his power and use. And when you look at this closer here, you see this is molded in a clear plastic, and it just kind of has some blue airbrushing going on throughout it. And the ring blasts just kind of plug onto Mandarin's hands like that. And there's the left one. Alright, and now he's ready for some ring attacks. Okay, so before I run out of nice things to say about this figure, let's go ahead and take a look at the sculpting. I do think that the sculpt looks great here on the robe with the shoulders and the chest and all the line work that was done on the figure. There's even some great sculpting done on the helmet, and you can see that each of his teeth have been individually sculpted. If you flip him around, he has that line work continuing on the back here, more striations, and then even has some flames sculpted on his robe there, and I think that's really fantastic. Also, let's go ahead and take a look at the rings here. I do think these rings are sculpted nicely, and I do appreciate that they've been painted. This is probably my favorite feature on the Mandarin figure, that he actually has those rings in there, but I'm just not sure about that pink nail polish on each hand. Now when it comes to the painting, unfortunately it's not as great. There's a lot of missed paint lines. As you look around the robe here, you'll see that it doesn't line up with the sculpting a lot of the times. There we go on the left. So you pull it up here, the painting's uneven on the back. We flip them around, there's a lot of faded painting around the helmet and everything. It just seems like it was just kind of a rushed job on this figure, unfortunately. Alright, and let's go ahead and get to the articulation on this figure. He does have a head that rotates, barely, left and right. It is hindered here by the hair sculpt. His head does not really look up at all. It looks down actually much better, but it doesn't stay in place. Inside the robe here, he does have an ab crunch that pops. That's about all the motion you're going to get out of that. And he does have a ball jointed shoulder as well as an arm swivel and an elbow joint and a wrist joint, but it doesn't matter because no matter what you do with this arm, it's not going anywhere. Same thing for the body here. He does have a waist swivel. Doesn't really matter. The robe's going to get in the way. You're not going to see his legs anyway. And he does have a hip joint and a ball jointed hip that allows him to move his leg forward about that far, but again, doesn't matter. And he has a knee joint, which allows his leg to move back that far. That actually does stay, but your Mandarin's not standing like that anyway. And he does have a swivel here at the ankle. His foot does bend up about that far, it does bend back about that far, and he does have a toe articulation here, so that's kind of nice. But really, this robe is the most hindersome thing I've ever seen on a Marvel Legend figure, and it is a big, big complaint I have with this guy. You just can't get him to stay in any pose that you actually want him to stand in. He just always basically goes back to normal. There we go. Well, he's standing on his robe there, as you can see, but this Mandarin's actually pretty hard to get to stand on his own. I frequently am using stands like this Dr. Doom stand or whatever I've got handy, just so this guy can actually stand and do some sort of dynamic posing with other figures. Really, really disappointed with this figure's ability to stand and articulate. Height-wise, this Mandarin stands at just about 6.5 inches. And for some height comparison here, we do have Mandarin standing next to the Hasbro Marvel Legends Epic Heroes Wave Neoclassic Iron Man armor. And we do have him standing next to the Toy Biz Galactus Series War Machine armor. And just for fun, here's Mandarin standing next to the Marvel Legends Infinite Series Wolverine on the right here, and the Marvel Legends Bucky Cap here on the left. And you'll notice here, if it weren't for this stand, Mandarin and Bucky Cap would probably be the exact same height. So that's my review of the Marvel Legends Face-Off Series Mandarin. Honestly, this figure isn't that great. The sculpting's nice, and that's about as nice as I can be about it. The painting's kind of sloppy, the articulation's terrible, he's got that ugly helmet on his head. There is a variant Mandarin out there that had a red robe and no helmet that was also in a face-off 2-pack. Maybe that's the Mandarin you want to track down, but the only reason you want this Mandarin, the green one here, is because he comes with the modular armor Iron Man. This is really a figure that you can just skip out on if you can help it. It is the only Mandarin that has been made for Marvel Legends so far, but it's also not that great. Well, that's my review, guys. If you like it, please feel free to rate, share, and subscribe, and hit me up on Twitter at D21Beast. Thanks for watching.